And I'm going to try a little bit of a different format to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk. And I'm going to basically go in order of who's on my screen. And the first person on my screen is the little critter over there poking up from her hole, Shirley. She's sitting in a chair that her very tall husband sat in before her.
Yes. And the camera is positioned for him.
So it's much lower. So first thing, Shirley, let's start with a win. Something that went well this past week.
I got a phone call regarding a job. And so that was good in itself, that one of my many job applications got a phone call back. So that was a great thing. But the win about it was the way I approached it, because I had all these mixed feelings about it, and I took the time to just stop and think and realized that why I had mixed feelings, and I probably will pursue. I'll follow it through and see, if they offer me a second interview or whatever, I will follow that through if I'm offered. However, I think I probably won't take the position. I'm not going to slam the door, but I know why. It's because this would be a fear-based decision. The job is in administration. It would be managing others doing what I want to do. And you have to have my experience to get this job, and that's why they called me. However, I realized the only reason I'd be doing this is for money, is because we need to have income. It's because I'm afraid it's the only offer I'll get, or the only door that might open. Oh, now I'm part of the world. So I thought that was really good. I was glad that I could sit and look at it and look at why I was feeling that way and say, oh, I was raised in an atmosphere where all fear-based decisions, that's how life was lived. And it's still my default setting, Do the thing that stops the fear. That's and I decided I would not maybe do that. And I would not assume this is the only door that might open for me. If it doesn't feel like a good fit for me and my talent and my passion, I'm not going to do that. So, and I haven't totally, all voices haven't been heard yet, and I haven't made a final decision, but I'm feeling good about seeing that.
Two questions for you. When you think about the potential that this position has for you, professionally, personally, is money really the only reason to consider that position?
Well, one reason to consider the position is that it would give me an opportunity to have a voice and an influence in a higher place in an organization. I would be a mid-level manager, and I would be responsible for, I would be a member of the ethics committee, and I would be on the regulatory committee. I would be the liaison, perhaps, I think, if I understand correctly, between the hospital and the Joint Commission, who are the ones who make they're the ones who decide what hospitals have to do. They're the accrediting agency. And so it's, it would be like a promotion if I got it. And I was real open. He asked me if I had ever supervised people, and I said, well, I had a student intern once. But no, not really. And I said, I was very direct. I said, this would be working from the ground up. I really have no experience at this level. My experience has all been on the ground level, being a chaplain. And he didn't say thank you very much.
Well, if he offers you a second interview, then, at least from my opinion, you not having experience is an advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's much easier to shape you in service of the way they like to do things,
Right.
their rules of engagement, so on. But the second question I have for you is, and you kind of alluded to it, is do you see yourself in a mentoring role, the opportunity to shape chaplains that are going to be moving forward once you've retired? I'm thinking legacy here.
Yeah. And you want to know why I don't. And it's not that, because some of that happens naturally. Some of that happens because I'm older and experienced, and people come to me and they ask me questions. And some of that just happens naturally. But are you familiar with the 4 quadrants of learning thing? And I don't remember what all they are, but there's like 4 quadrants of learning. I don't remember what the first 2 are even, but I know the third one is the point where you really are deeply into understanding the hows and whats of what you are doing. You're kind of becoming on top of it. You're becoming very engaged with the process of where you are in the learning process. And then the 4th is where it's become integrated, and it's part of what you do naturally, and you're not having to think out every step anymore. And that's where I am. I've been doing this for 20 years, but I also have this personality where I kind of was born doing this, and I just found a place in the world where you get paid for doing what I was doing anyway. And then I learned how to do it well, which is a really good thing. But it's really hard from this place to go back to the 3rd quadrant and re-engage with the hows and the proofs and the this is why stuff, because I don't think like that. And I would have to go back and re-engage in that place to do it, and it would be hard. It would not come out of my passion. It wouldn't be flowing. It would be something I'd have to work really hard at.
Yeah, it's a big shift to go from master to teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it requires you to really examine just how well you thought you knew something. Mm-hmm. As one of the mantras I go by, and I think it was Einstein who said it, is if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. So often when you try to explain something and the words aren't there, you're like, man, I know what I want to say. I know the words here. I just don't know how to explain it. That tells you it's time to go back and do some more reflecting. Find the language for it. One of the best things about doing Facebook Lives or any kind of article writing is it requires you not only to simplify, because they recommended everything, all the content produced out there, be at a 5th grade reading level. Because that's what the newspapers go by. 5th grade reading level, so as many people as possible can consume what you've written. And that's pretty helpful for video as well. Because if you want to impact people on a larger scale, which many of us do, whether it's in the private sector, being a chaplain, or much more globally, like the kind of things that Becky and I do, or you're just trying to communicate to your kids, who for some of us are still kind of little, you need to be able to simplify your language, use concepts, use metaphors that can help a person connect with what you're trying to teach them from their own life story. So there are definitely, Shirley, some opportunities for personal growth, for making impact in other people's lives, being impacted by them. Because you hear their stories and their values and their motivations. And one of the things that some of us old timers need to do is be connected with the younger generation who is growing up in a world that at some point was completely radical and new to us. For them, it's all they've ever known. Some of these millennials, I see just how quickly they adapt to this digital stuff, and they're absolutely killing it. And here I am sitting back like, who are you? How old are you again? What? 24 and you're making, multiple 6 figures? Pardon? And then I get to know those folks and see what they're doing. And so much of it is because this digital stuff is common sense to them. So the learning goes both ways.
Oh, that's always true. That is true.
And if you want to stay young, if you want to stay feeling vibrant and curious and so forth, get yourself in a situation where you need to do some teaching. See if you can do it in such a way where you reignite that sense of wonder. Because one thing I suspect you know, Shirley, is that you rarely hear the same story twice when you're working
Rarely.
with customers or clients.
Right.
I was called a consumer yesterday. Oh, can you get that? I'm working with a consumer right now. Like, okay, well, that's an interesting way. Okay. So just some points to ponder, because I suspect there's many layers to here. Some fear of needing the income may have been why you sought positions in general in the first place. But fear doesn't need to be the reason you follow through.
Well, that is true. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Next on our screen, Rapunzel, also known as Becky. Remember, we're starting with a win for the week.
I've got 2 wins.
Bring it on.
So Wednesday I went to see my therapist after the Christmas and New Year break. And I was supposed to have 8 2-hour sessions left with the potential for more if they were needed. However, she's now decided that I do not need those 8 sessions, and all I need now is a relapse prevention plan putting in place, which is awesome. So she actually said there is not much more she could discuss with me that I didn't already know or understand, and that the level of understanding I have around CBT techniques and OCD in general for everybody was such a high standard and high level that there wasn't really anything she could provide more. So that was really positive. And secondly, I had a phone call back from my GP because I requested to switch tablets from Romaron to something else because the weight gain's been crazy. They've actually rung back with a view to taking me off medication altogether. So
Wait, so they're not going to replace it, they're just going to stop it?
yeah, but with Romaron it has to be done gradual. You can't really just stop. So it'll be a 6-week course. So as of today, my dosage will have been reduced by 15 milligrams, and then 2 weeks after it'll be lowered again until it's safe to completely stop.
And what was this medication intended to help you with?
Well, mirtazapine is a non-adrenic, so I'm really sorry. Mirtazapine is one of the stronger antidepressants that are out there. I was put on them because they thought that I tried some other typical SSRIs, which I haven't. So that was the next option. But I did recently find out that the Romaron's actually given to patients with anorexia because of the appetite stimulant.
Well, isn't that sneaky?
Oh, yes. So I've gained around 120 pounds since March, so quite a lot. Quite a lot.
You've gained how much?
120 pounds.
120 pounds. You've gained a second human being.
Yes. I was very tiny back in March. So I think a size 8 there is like a size 4 in sizes. And now I've gone up like 5 dress sizes since taking the Romaron.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that is that's a big win for this week. There is the option if my moods dip or I see an increase in unwanted moods and stuff. I'm really sorry. It's at the stage of, does everybody know what a mugwai is? Gizmo?
Mogwai?
Yeah, you know Gizmo from the Gremlins?
Yeah, he's a gremlin.
Yeah, well, the cute and fluffy one. You know the little sad face he pulls?
Oh, yeah.
He looks like a little mugwai.
Oh,
So,
goodness.
yeah, there is the option to go on something called sertraline if I don't successfully come off the Romanon. So at least I'm coming off the one that's causing the weight issue. So that's a big win.
It sounds like he's saying something.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying, Mother, that's a very wise choice for you. I'm so grateful you followed through with your position.
He's just like to say mama actually. So when I come down, he goes, Mama. So that's quite cute. Oh, there we go. Mama.
Oh, there we go. That's what he's going to say every time he sees you on the brink of being ticked off. He's going to be all cute, Mama.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Totally melt your heart.
Those are my 2 wins for the week. I've just done another YouTube video this afternoon, so I'm kind of pacing myself with those rather than kind of rushing through. So I have a star of different titles of videos to do. I'm rather go through the list. I'm just picking the one that kind of feels right at that moment. So today's has been about people searching for a cure to stopping intrusive thoughts. So I've just recorded that one, and that one's now active on the channel. So it's really good too. Other than that, it's been pretty chilled.
When it comes to any kind of depression returning, that's something you and I can try and stay ahead of, because I've been managing my own depression for years without medication, but it takes some strong mental commitment. There are habits, things you need to put in place. I don't want to liken it to addiction, but it is in the way that, alcoholics or addicts, every single day they make a declaration, I'm not going to use today, or I'm not going to drink today. And they have their support system and things that they do to make sure they don't slip. And when it comes to depression, you need to approach it in a very similar way. Like the morning funny thing that I share, that came from the fact that I will often go on YouTube and find something funny to watch to get myself laughing, to elevate my mood first things in the morning, because I often wake up feeling bummed. I'm dragging a little bit. I'm like, man, I don't want to get up. And then I realize, okay, I've got to shift this. I've got to get into a place where I'm feeling more resourceful and move from this scarcity, I don't wanna, to something much more abundant. And a good laugh does that for me. Yeah,
I mean, that's definitely something I'll need to start doing as the mirtazapine is lowered, because the lower doses are more sedating. So I vaguely remember on the lower doses I struggled massively to get, not to want to get up, but to be able to get up in the morning without feeling so tired. And I do know on the low dose I was often falling asleep on the sofa. Luckily, like, the living room's pretty safe for Rory. We have safety gate and there's nothing he can climb on apart from the sofa. But I was constantly falling asleep when I was getting up with him, and I didn't like that because it was making me feel pretty crap as a parent, because I wasn't able to stay awake, in case he hurt himself or something, even though I knew, the room was relatively safe. It wasn't until the dose was increased that stopped. So I need to be prepared for the lower doses and how they're going to affect me. But I guess me and Jamie already have a good system in place. We're taking turns getting up with Rory anyway. It's just the last 3 mornings I've refused to get up, so Jamie's got So he's
Well-
not being happy with me.
And hopefully that period of time when you're on the lower doses will be short-lived.
Yeah. Well, it's they're changing the dose every 2 weeks, so I'll be going on to 30 milligrams this week, and then 2 weeks later it'll go down to 15, and then after 2 weeks cut them out completely. So it's only going to be over the space of 4 weeks. So we'll see. But I have agreed. I've said, you know, if I don't manage to come off them, or I feel like I'm not managing without them, then I'm happy to introduce sertraline, because I initially thought that they would want to do like a crossover. So as they were lowering the Romaron, introduce the sertraline, so that there's no, because usually with antidepressants, typically SSRIs, they take 2 to 4 weeks to kick in. So I thought maybe they would put me on something else as they're reducing the mirtazapine, so I wouldn't have that 2 to 4 week wait. But they've said, no, you know, we're happy for you to come off them. But if you feel you're not coping, you can go on to something else. So
So it sounds like they want to see whether you even need a medication.
yeah,
Okay.
I am anxious, but I'm not anxious, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
there's an unknown there.
yeah, so there's an uncertainty. So there's naturally some anxiety there. However, I've been doing some research this morning, and I've actually found out mirtazapine is notorious for causing suicidal thoughts. So it's kind of left me wondering whether mine have been ongoing due to a side effect of the mirtazapine or not. Because they're not part of OCD anymore. This is the discussion we had with my therapist on Wednesday, was I'm no longer getting triggered.
Rory's getting plenty of triggers.
Every Friday. So over the Christmas break, there were many potential triggers there. There was at least 4 people from that I have a connection to, so either a friend of a friend or an acquaintance, that unfortunately took their own life, and it was on social media, and it wasn't triggering. There was stuff in the movies that I was watching that wasn't triggering anymore. So I've naturally worked through that. The only times that I'm being triggered now is the lower moods. If I'm in a lower mood, then my interpretation then of that lower mood then leads to that kind of thinking, because it's like a default habit.
So when you're in a depressed state, certain things that would not have likely triggered you when you are feeling better can trigger you.
Really sorry. The lower mood, I get triggered because I misinterpret the emotions, and then I get anxious. But in general, the stuff that was triggering me before do not trigger me either or. So like Christmas was wasn't low mood or depressed, but was kind of indifferent. I think that's the word. And that stuff was popping up on social media, and it just, yeah, I felt sad for them, you know, and I was starting to learn that, you know, depression, anxiety, mental health doesn't have a face, and I was starting to learn more, but it certainly didn't trigger me personally. So, you know, it's either a combination of the tools that I've kind of collected over time, and the stuff obviously that you guys have helped with, and the bits that I've got from my therapist and the stuff that I've read and put into practice myself. I don't know whether it's just a combination of lots of different things where I've just kind of worked past it. So, but I mean, the big positive is I feel much better through helping other people So as I'm doing my videos and talking and posting, I'm kind of advising myself at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's kind of a, I don't even know if it's much of a secret as the people believe it to be, but a lot of the more helpful people out there, they're solving their own problems, they have an epiphany, and then they share that epiphany with others.
Yeah.
So it's part of their own journey. And there are a lot of people out there that are figuring that out.
Yeah.
But they're still cool with it because they might not have come up with that answer on their own. So they're glad that you have a reliable process of introspection and discovering solutions because you're more solution focused.
Yeah.
And now you're paying it forward to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single one of us is a work in progress because things change.
Yeah.
And those changes require our adjustments. And some of those changes can feel like a kick square between the eyes and require us to make a lot of adjustments and a lot of growth, sometimes in a short period of time. But unfortunately, that's kind of the human condition. And we do our utmost to improve the ride by improving our tools.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Very cool, Beck. Well, let me check in with Amanda here.
Hello.
So Amanda, let's start with a win, something that you're proud of, something that worked over the past week.
Oh, it's been a rough week, but we increased our sales for the farm. And this
Wow.
morning I signed us up to do a farmer's market, and that is brand new to us. We don't usually do farmer's market. So I'm excited to add that in during summer for Friday nights because it gives us something good and healthy to do and makes a good example for the kids. And so, yeah, that's kind of a win.
How about in terms of the relationship communication skills you're practicing?
Yesterday was a bad day. I've had a lot of good days in the last few weeks, but yesterday just kind of put me on my heels today, and I'm still struggling with my mood and a bit of a migraine. Just the farm stress and learning that we do have to, aside from the business issues, the home that we're living in, we're going to have to move out of. So we have to relocate our farm and, of course, the family. And that's very complicated when you have 1,000 chickens. So we're having a lot of stress right now. Not sure where we're going to be living in a few months. So it's got us both on edge and arguing.
Understandably so.
Yeah.
And whereas your tendency is to lean more towards optimism,
Yes.
it's going to work out, we're going to figure this out together. You're with a partner right now that is having a very primal response to this. It's
Yes.
fear, it's catastrophic, it's awful.
Yes, that is kind of what I'm going through. And as we're trying to make a business plan moving forward, he's been struggling to involve me in making those plans, and it's been making me feel very anxious and left out. So yeah, he keeps making business plans without asking how I feel about it or asking what we're going to do. I just get presented with them, and they're definitely made with that that primal hyper focus, kind of the no gray area, and
Yeah, that wonderful black and white thinking.
yeah, and they're somewhat fantastical. So they're leading me to kind of worry because they're not realistic. But if I point out that they're not realistic, I try to be calm, I try to get involved. That's been leading to, I think, him feeling anxious and rejected. So yeah, yesterday was a bad day. I got yelled at a lot and screamed at. And
So is any of this something you want to process with us, or is it something that you'd rather discuss offline between you and I?
I think probably, I don't know what's more helpful to the group, but I don't know.
It's also an opportunity to help you.
Yeah, well, I think that what I've been really struggling with, I keep thinking that he's going to start following through on getting help. You know, he's got all these resources. He's had this referral for months to this ADD specialist and psychiatrist to tune in his meds, and he just keeps not calling. So I don't know if I need to adjust my expectations of what he's going to do and where he's going to go, because I've really checked into improving our relationship and our communication, and I feel like he's even sometimes using that as a tool against me now.
How so?
Well, if I ask him to kind of check into doing his part, then he starts calling me, oh, I'm Amanda, the high and mighty, the queen, I'm doing everything. He uses it to insult me.
Well, he uses it to maintain that competitive frame of mind that he has, that we're in competition with each other. It's win-lose.
Absolutely, that has remained the case, and it harms me. And I know I'm making progress, and I'm proud of myself, but it is continuing to remain a very hostile area at times, where I feel like I can't win sometimes, even when I'm trying to do the right thing.
Well, one of the things that you and I can work on is when he throws something at you that's trying to maintain the power struggle, there are ways to pull the wind out of that sail.
That would be great.
Because that's when we need to counterbalance what he's doing, because you can't invite him into a partnership if he insists on making you an adversary. So
yeah,
when
I feel that way.
when you say something to him about wanting to do his part, and he accuses you of trying to be the high and mighty and so on, you can say things back to him like, did you hear other, and what I just said, did you hear other about me caring about your happiness?
Yeah. Yes.
Or simply, more directly, did I use language that suggested that I think I'm better than you in all this? Because if he's making a lot of accusations from paranoia or insecurity without proof that that's what you're doing, ask him where his proof is.
Yeah.
Is there something I just said that made you think that I think I'm better than you?
I think that from the impression I've been getting, if I don't give him 100% agreement with his ideas and plans, he will focus in on maybe the one time that I disagree with him. With yesterday, for instance, he came up with a plan that I agreed with 99% of. And I was purposefully going out of my way to be supportive and positive and optimistic. And I disagreed with one tiny portion of it. And then he took that and from there turned it against me. I was being a bad guy, not supportive. I didn't understand. And then he just attacks me on it.
So you're not allowed to have any questions.
Pretty much.
Okay. You're not allowed to have any thoughts of your own.
Yeah.
You simply need to be an obedient little lemming.
That's how it feels a lot of the time, yes.
Okay. And be led wherever he wants you to go. Where was that agreement between you made?
It was never made. It's happened over time. When we first started dating, I was very strong. And just over the years, our relationship has changed. And I am not like I was. I was confident, and I was, people would come to me for the positive energy. And I feel like he uses my optimism and positive energy as a buoy for his negativity and pessimism. I never agreed to that. It's just happening. And I'm feeling like I'm trying to create balance again. And I'm having still a lot of better days with him. But we're under so much stress right now that he seems easily triggered.
Understandable. If his default setting is anxiety,
yes,
which in many cases it is, then not only is he looking for confirmation, he's looking for evidence that feeling anxious is the way to go.
Yes.
See, look at all these problems. I told you we should be concerned about this. But he's also looking for bad guys.
It seems like everything every day is a potential battle. And sometimes just getting him to open up to a new day and be happy is very difficult.
And one thing he's missing is that blame is not a problem solver.
Yes. Yes.
And he keeps going after that. Whose fault is it today? Who can I yell at?
Yeah, and it's
Who's the villain?
frequently me.
Yeah, and where are the solutions in that?
Yeah, and it's hard to swallow for our relationship. The friends I have that are still involved in my life, because we've moved a lot, you know, they know me to be a person who never harms, only supports and loves and smiles and makes people laugh. But the way he often sees me or says I am is just completely the opposite, you know.
A lot of
Saying I'm an
projection.
instigator and I'm out to get him and ruin his life. And sometimes it feels like he really, really, really hates me.
Well, if in the past you were kind of the fixer or the problem solver, there could be a part of him that's waiting for you to put your cape on and rescue him from this situation, and you haven't done that.
Yeah, I'm drained.
Well, and he's not helping matters.
No.
You know, he succeeded in wearing you down bit by bit over the years, and turning things around, especially under intense circumstances, is difficult. But if he wants to move from fear, which is what he's just steeped in, to much more of an abundance way of thinking, much more solution focused, he's going to have to let go of the villain. He's going to have to understand, and this is something you might be able to ask him, is, honey, are you more interested in us being enemies or a team?
Yeah.
And of course, he might think, well, if we were more of a team, you would be supporting me and you would be listening to me and so on and so forth. And then you could reply, yeah, and if we were a team, you'd be doing the same for me.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't knock him for a loop. But bit by bit here, Amanda, there are a lot of opportunities for reframing things, for encouraging him to do some reflection, to realize that, man, I'm really full of it in a lot of ways here.
That would be nice if there was some of that.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of that. It's stuff, you know, you and I, if we could stay in more regular communication,
Yeah.
because clearly there's been a lot of opportunities throughout the week where he came after you and he was venting, and we can step back and say, okay, what can we do with what he just threw at you?
Yeah, there's been some good days and there's been some bad days, and my heart and soul are just tired of you know, it's one thing for me to get yelled at and screamed at and, you know, we'll recover, but sometimes he yells at me in front of the kids, and
Yeah, that's
they
another
get
one.
involved, and then this week they're sticking up for me as he's cussing me out, you know, and they're 8 and 9 years old, and they shouldn't have to feel like they have to rescue me. And I don't like it when they hear him talk to me like that. I'm so terrified that I am creating a situation that they're going to repeat
Yeah,
like I
and
did.
he's making himself a bad guy in the eyes of the children.
Yes, he is.
So he's digging himself a bigger hole.
Yeah. And they actively every day put energy purposefully into trying to make sure he's in a good mood. And I can see how they start acting if they hear his tone of voice alter or see him upset. They both go over, they hug him, they kiss him, they tell him how great he is.
Oh, he's turning them into people pleasers.
They're definitely that.
Yeah, kiddos, you have to learn right now that you are responsible for other people's emotions and other people's happiness. That's what he's
Yeah.
teaching them.
Yep. So it's hard for me.
Well,
I feel
fortunately
sometimes
for
like
you,
I'm not
Amanda,
protecting them.
you're not doing this alone. You have
Yep.
us, you have me, you have an amazing sister that's got your back.
Yes, I do.
So remember your team, lean on us. You know, one
Thank
thing that
you.
surprises me is I'll sometimes get lengthy messages from some of the people that I work with, and it ends with an apology. Sorry for laying this all on you. Sorry for venting. And I think to myself, this is why I'm here.
Mm.
I'm not here because you're treating me like, because I'm sure you've run across these people that they pour their heart and soul out on you, but then they don't want to do anything. They just kind of want to wallow. And I understand the value of venting. I sometimes do it myself. Clear the air of the frustration so you can think more clearly. That is some healthy venting. But when it's about the venting, it's about looking for that sympathy and that validation, but not any meaningful solutions. That's a waste of everybody's time and energy.
Yes.
That is my mother. It's all about what hurts and, I didn't sleep, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Countless people telling her what she can do to improve the situation. Oh, well, Just dismiss it.
Yeah.
So I don't hear it. I've set the boundaries and our phone calls are shorter than ever now because she knows I don't want to hear it. But I want to hear it. I want to hear it, Amanda, okay? That's why I'm here.
Okay. And I'm going to spend the day with my sister today and just go shopping and be, in a place where there's no negative being thrown at me.
Get some pampering.
Well, I don't know about that, but pampering is just me being in a place where there's no hostility.
Yeah, catch your breath.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Shopping without kids is a treat.
Yes.
It's almost like, how can I justify staying here for another 4 hours?
Yeah.
Find reasons to drag it out. Oh, I checked off everything on my list, but I must have forgotten something. Maybe I'll walk around down every aisle again.
Yeah.
Something catches my eye.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness.
I'm still working and I'm still reading the books and I'm
Yeah, and you're still new to this.
greater understanding of ADD each day, and even where he's not necessarily involved in checking in, I'm still learning. I know my daughter's going to get the diagnosis eventually, so these are still skills that I need to have because she's amazing and I want to help her be as amazing as she can, and I want to be supportive in the right way. So,
have you had a chance to watch some of the ADD videos that I put up?
yeah, I've watched all of yours, and then I'm still watching others on YouTube and just watching as much as I can and learning.
Yeah, there's a young lady out there named Jessica who has a channel called How to ADD.
How to
ADHD.
ADHD.
Yeah.
I have started watching her. She's very energetic. She reminds me of my daughter.
Yeah, she's definitely leveraging her natural ADD tendency.
Yes.
Yeah, thank goodness for the interwebs. We have so many people can share their nuanced view, and you put it all together, and you got some great strategies.
Yeah.
So we have a special guest today, Mr. Bill Talbot, who is Shirley's husband. And I don't know if, Bill, you just kind of want to be a fly on the wall today. Did you want to chime in with specific questions?
Well, and first of all, can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Win for the week, I have moved back to a paper planner. And most people would say that was a defeat, but it's getting to the point where you realize none of the electronic forms force the discipline that a paper system forces. And
what it boils down to is, does it work for you?
yes, I'm sitting here actually making notes that I'll be able to get back to.
That's the key right there. Is it going to
that's
increase the likelihood of follow through?
Yeah, and that's great. And it allows me to stay focused. The other thing critical to it allows me to stay focused in a conversation, because when a rabbit or a squirrel runs by, I can jot it down and let it go instead of having to follow it when I am in a conversation.
Please, everybody, make note of that. That simple strategy alone can save you from chasing every shiny object that crosses your path. And Becky, I think that you mentioned it a little bit, that you have a bit of an idea journal when it comes to YouTube topics.
Yeah.
Because one thing that would sabotage me in the past is I didn't keep a list like that. And I felt like I needed to act upon something that in my brain and in my gut, it sounded and felt really cool. But I don't want to forget it, so I better do something about it right now. And I go all in. And then the other five things that I plan to do don't get done now. So having some place where you can write it down, knowing that you're not going to lose it, you can come back to it later, allows you to get your focus back on what you started with to begin with and see it through. You're much more productive because you can delegate that impulse, so to speak, for later.
Yeah. Doing that has been really helpful because I get really excited. So I want to get everything out in like one go. So using lists like that and having the ideas wrote down allows me to break down all the information I want to get out instead of cramming it all into one video. So it allows me to really focus on certain areas rather than everything all at once, because that's kind of information overload. So it's been really useful this time around, just kind of pacing, like I say, just pacing myself with it.
Absolutely. So you're back to paper planner, Bill. It's working much better for you. So that's a win.
And that is the win I'm highlighting this week. I've got other wins, but that's such a significant win for me that, you know, because I just didn't want to spend the money on the planner system.
And you often don't need to. I mean, I see a lot of planner systems out there that, in my personal opinion, I got a lot of opinions, as you'll see, doesn't mean you have to agree with them, is I see people that I think make time management systems complicated because then you need to pay them more money to teach you how to use their complicated scheduling system. And it doesn't need to be that complicated.
No, Franklin is just, I mean, it's a straightforward system. We have audio tape from when Shirley and I took the classes. It's like second nature to me. And there's actually a piece that I need to work with Franklin that's no longer evidently in their annual packet, which is the planning calendars for the future. You know, after you get out of the year you're currently in, you're supposed to have calendar pages for years in the future.
Well, I know that Day Planner does that, but they don't follow the Franklin system. So it's
yeah,
not
well, and
the same pages that you need.
Right, but you know, I can live chat with Franklin and say, "Hey, where is this?" Because it's definitely not in the annual packet anymore. But anyways, so that's the win, but the growth edge I'm working on is to regularize and proceduralize, just get it down that I spend time with Shirley investigating feelings.
So when you say investigating feelings, can you tell me more about what you think that would look like, what it would feel like to do that?
A review of current or just prior events and the feelings that I noted from her about those events, and then asking, is there something else? Is there, how are you dealing with the current situation in our lives? How am I dealing with it? Am I making progress? As some people in the group know, I'm pursuing entering ministry, and in that pursuit of entering ministry, I'm trying to get certain things done. I have a report to the bishop's office. I've got to go see the new training coordinator for our area. And I've got to catalog classes that I can take and agree with the training advisor and the bishop's office as to how these classes fit into the program.
I got a couple tidbits for you, Bill. One thing that's important, and this is pretty often a guy's issue in relationships as far as I can see, but of course, this is not a universal stereotype. Some women have this issue too. And that is the ability to stop what you're doing and transition to give your undivided attention to your partner. Because, and I found this, with this group too, if something's happened in a person's life and they're feeling too emotional, the last thing they want to do is get on a call and talk about it when it's still raw. They're still processing. So I'm not going to tell somebody, well, this is the only time you can do it. I might be busy later. We can't talk about it then. You need to be prepared to be ready when your partner's ready. It has nothing to do with it being convenient. That's the first
Correct.
thing. The other thing is, everything you just said, let's see if we can simplify it and boil it down and do a few very straightforward questions. The most straightforward of which is, so honey, how you doing? Because how you doing is one of those questions like, where are you at right now? What's weighing on your mind? What's top of mind? So if there's still something that's spilling over from yesterday, that is captured in that question. How you doing, honey? Because now if she's still bothered about an argument or a misunderstanding, that's her opportunity to bring it up. Are you nervous about something that's going to happen later on today, like a job interview? And another question is, after your spouse or your friend or whoever has shared how they're doing, whether it's positive or negative, then you can follow it up with, is there anything I can do to support you better? And then if needed, be prepared to take notes.
Okay, I've got those down in my notes.
Because being a big communicator or a good communicator in many respects isn't about how well you can articulate what's on your mind. It's how well can you ask a good question and then shut up and listen.
Most certainly. And it's getting away from monologuing.
Yeah. And that's a tough one for us, Bill. I mean, in the past, when my wife and I first got together, we've been married for 9 years now, I still had an issue with monologuing. And her and I worked out a signal where she could call me on it, get me to stop without embarrassing me in front of people. And the signal worked great because her and I figured out this is what you would say, this is how you would do it, and only you and I would know what you were doing. So she wouldn't have to go in geez, honey, would you stop talking and give somebody else a chance? That wasn't what she said, by the way, but we want to prevent that. Her little cue to me was she would gently put her hand on my shoulder and then say, hey, honey, I think so-and-so has a question for you. Or I think so-and-so has something they would like to add to this. And I would turn to her and say, oh, thank you for catching that. And then I would turn to the person and say, oh, I'm so sorry. I was just caught up in my thoughts. Please, what is it you want to say? And then I would turn into this gracious person who was facilitating conversation as opposed to, oh, I'm so sorry for doing that. Because being able to maintain our dignity and our self-respect while gaining self-awareness and learning from our little quirks, that's essential. Because if being embarrassed and shame is attached to those things, that's not going to help us grow.
Right. Shame is actually antithetical to the entire process of
Yeah.
growth.
Shame is the most toxic feeling a person can have. Other than the feeling of, oh, my in-laws are coming over for dinner. But,
I would be grateful to have
Yeah.
somebody for dinner.
Yeah, I love my in-laws this time around. The previous package was, we won't go there. But
Well, Shirley and I are working in our 46th year. And,
46 years of marriage, right?
yep,
If that gives you perspective, I just turned 49.
understand you were 4 when we were married.
Yeah. And had I known, I would have been there with bells on. But we weren't connected then.
And it was a wonderful church that we got married in. And unfortunately, the thing I'm always reminded of is that I was out of uniform when we got married.
Shame on you.
Anyways, you shared earlier, blame is not a problem solver, which is like a core value to me because of the industry I worked in. Blame was like antithetical to getting the problem solved. And if you had a problem in the nuclear industry, those are serious. And you don't want to do anything that gets in the way of solving the immediate issue.
Amanda, for a little context, Bill's work has been in simulating what could happen if things went wrong in a nuclear power plant and therefore preventing those things from happening.
Wow. That is wonderful.
So yeah, you can't blame. You just need to figure what the heck happened and how fast can we fix it. So it's not to say that blame doesn't show up in our lives, even though we know better. Would it be nice if everything that we learned, we immediately practiced and did so consistently 100% of the time with absolute perfection? Would it be nice if it worked like that? Like Amanda, like you said earlier, you've been having some wonderful days.
Yes.
But then life just kind of happened all at one time and exceeded your capacity to be resourceful.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
And that happens to us, you know, because if there's one thing we cannot control, it's the speed and the intensity of life. We cope as best we can with the tools we've got, and if we have insufficient tools, we get better tools or we get additional support. And the additional support is maybe one of the pieces you forgot about. You know, that there are other people that are available to you.
For me, that's definitely the case. And that's something I've been having to force back in because I have been basically kind of getting in trouble if I involve other people.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. You want to share a little bit about that?
Well, my husband doesn't like it when I talk to my friends, siblings, family members about our arguments or problems. He feels like everything should be private. I know that that's not good, that I need that support, and that it's kind of locked me into this abuse cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to break out of it. But I also feel like if everybody knows too much about him, that they'll all give up on him. So I guess in a way I'm protecting him. But I've been breaking free of that in this group and working on it.
The main thing here is that, A, we don't know him.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of if we give up on him, which we're not going to do.
Yeah.
Have that same amount to lose by saying, you know, keep it within our relationship. Don't talk to other people. He's saying to you, honey, you're not allowed to get support for yourself.
Yeah.
which I don't know that he realizes he's doing. He's also saying that we need to keep ourselves in this little groupthink dynamic where neither of us has the answers, nor are we allowing ourselves to get any inside input that would increase the likelihood of us getting answers. We need to stay in this funk that isn't working for either of us.
That is exactly what he's been doing. A lot of our arguments have been revolving around the farm or money, and I've been suggesting lately that we have these conversations and involve accountants or even family members, just so that we can have them without him inserting the emotions and then elevating and turning discussions into arguments.
Yeah, because unfortunately his big objective is, instead of finding a solution, let's find someone to blame.
It seems that way. And
that might even be a question you can ask him is, honey, are you more interested in finding a solution or finding someone to blame? And that one could sting a little bit.
Okay.
I would be careful with phrasing it that way. The way
Well,
that
by all means, Bill, give us an alternative.
the alternative to that is to talk when you are not in a problem-solving mode about how to solve problems as a group or team, and pointing out that the problem generally is with the system. For example, we haven't provided the training to a particular operator that's effective at allowing him not only to do his job, but to do his job with excellence. How has the system failed here to get done what needs to be done? And that draws the focus away from people in blame and on to how do we improve the system such that it works.
So what would you say between a man and woman in a marriage situation? Where do you see the system being in that situation?
Well, for example, for me, I put systems in place to help me live day to day, because if as a spectrum person, I am often overloaded by input. So I have to narrow my input, but you got to narrow your input to the right input so that you aren't ignoring something else that's vital and important. So you put a system in place that gets the priorities answered as they come up and can be interrupted. In other words, Shirley can walk in while I am on the computer working, and she could tap me on the shoulder or literally just be a presence in the room. I'll finish up what I'm doing and turn to her when I'm successful at implementing the system, because I know that the data will be there when I come back to it. And so therefore I can turn and give her my attention.
So one thing that's clear in terms of Amanda's husband is that he does not have a lot of the strategies he needs.
And he's not going to get that unless he becomes committed to making relationships work. Mm-hmm. I mean, my biggest change was when I decided I wanted to move from the technical area. I wanted to remain in the technical area, but I also wanted to manage people as a challenge to myself. And that just brought about huge changes in my life.
One of the main things that we want to accomplish in Amanda's relationship is impressing upon her husband that he can be part of a positive change. Because right now he's positioned himself as the recipient of wrongdoings. Because you did this, because the bank did that, that's why we're in this situation. And he sees himself as helpless to do anything to create change.
Yes.
So we definitely want to put it in his part that actions he's taking, decisions he is making are part of what is resulting in his anxiety, his frustration, everything else that's going on. It's not all on him. He's trying to make it all on Amanda.
Right. He's
Yeah,
trying
it
to find an
seems like-
external blame point.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like every conversation shifts to just a relationship argument rather than its original focus of solving an actual dilemma.
It's really tough to get both parties moving in the same direction, focus on practical solution, and then come back to focus on the emotion. I am just, 46 years in, you would think I would have this all down. I don't. But exposing the emotions and saying, okay, those are the feelings, and then moving on to the solution and saying, we'll come back to feelings, might be a strategy that could work. And I'm going to have to experiment with that. That
And
first you get out the emotions, and then you say, okay, we're going to put a comma here. We're going to deal with the problem, and then we'll come back to the emotions.
And another question that comes to mind, Amanda, that you could ask your husband when he's in blame mode is ask him, I understand your frustration. You validate where he's coming from. I understand that this is a frustrating time. My question to you is, what can we do right now together to solve this?
Okay. I'll try that.
That may work better than are you looking for a solution or someone to blame?
Okay. I'm writing that one down.
Becky said she does that with her oldest.
Yeah.
So please expand upon that.
So when Ashley's struggling and not making great choices, obviously his anxiety flares up, which is then risking him going into crisis mode, full scale meltdown. So I I go up there into his space, sit with him, and just wait until he's calm enough to talk, and then we work out together what's bothering him, what we can do about it, what we can't do about it, and work together, because sometimes I think when you're overwhelmed with emotions, particularly anxiety, it's easy to kind of get lost in figuring out what to do. So we end up, especially Ash, ends up burying his head in the sand and not really knowing what to do, which then snowballs into crisis point because he doesn't know what to do and he's out of control. So sometimes lending your brain to somebody else can give them kind of cues, and then those will then, the ideas that you put across and the fact that you work together, those ideas then expand between both. So with me and Ash, I kind of give him the cue, or he'll come up with an answer, and then we'll kind of expand on that together. And as we're discussing it, he has what most people would call light bulb moments, that solution he wouldn't have been able to get to by himself. And more often than not, Ashley generally calms right down afterwards, feels much more confident, the anxiety is reduced, and he feels much more in control of the choices that he makes from that point. If then we end up in another situation, we just have to do the same and just remind him that if he can't figure something out, or he feels too overwhelmed to figure out a solution, that he doesn't have to work it out by himself. That obviously there was myself and his dad here. If he feels overwhelmed and can't figure out the next steps to take, or feels like, because a lot of the time Ashley will come and say, I feel like everything is going wrong today. So I'll sit him down and say, what's happened? We discuss it, and then we'll say, right, well, how can we move past that? What other choices can we make for the rest of the day that are going to make you feel like maybe not everything is going wrong today? So I think sometimes it's just about putting those cues there for them that they otherwise wouldn't see due to being overwhelmed. So answers that they probably would know, but their emotions are getting the better of them and just standing in the way of thinking rationally.
I like the idea of cues, almost like redirecting.
Mm-hmm. It's when you, and that's a lot of what I'm suggesting, Amanda, is when you ask questions in a specific way that almost causes their mind to seize up a little bit. I was like, huh? What? To have the realization that what they're currently engaged in is a big part of why they feel the way they do.
Yeah.
And giving them that opportunity to shift, even just a little bit.
I'll work on that.
And we will support you every step of the way.
Well, this is great. I have to cut out and go have my day with my sister. So,
oh, rock and roll. Get a pedicure for me, will you?
Yeah. Thank all of you, and I'll see you guys again next week and talk more throughout the week.
You're very welcome,
Thank
Amanda. Go ahead and
Thanks,
fun.
guys. Bye-bye.
Brian, you got a second?
Just 1 second, and I'm timing you starting now.
Where on the Mindset Academy do I find this event?
Okay, this event, I will make sure that I send a direct link to you because the event, the recording is going to be in a group that is kind of closed off to the regular members. You know, the regular members get to be in that group. So, but I keep it, the recordings in a cloud somewhere, so I will send you a direct link so you can get it.
Okay. I'm more interested in the invite to the Zoom meeting because I think I have the link to get back to the recordings.
Well, because I moved everything over into Mighty Networks now, out of the Facebook group.
Okay. So it's over in Mighty Networks. I will investigate. I'll get back to you if I have future problems with that.
Very good. So has everybody gotten something that they can use today?
Yes.
Yes.
I have one favor to ask, and this is something I learned from one of my gurus, one of my teachers rather, is that if you love something and you want others to benefit from it, you need to talk about it. So if you wanted at any point to go and brag about your experience in this group without violating any confidentiality of anyone else and encouraging other people to explore for themselves, please feel free to do so. Ideally, individually.
Do we do that on my network? So I'll do it on Facebook.
Yeah, and do it one-to-one. You know, if there's somebody that you think, hey, I just had this group and I thought of you, this is a topic you and I have discussed and I think it could help you a great deal. Because if you post it in general on your Facebook, it looks too much like an advertisement.
Yeah.
And people will ignore it. But if you reach out to them one-to-one, much better impact.
Did that girl on Instagram get in contact?
Which one is that?
She was called Emily. I tagged you. I can't
Possibly.
see.
It sounds familiar.
I tagged you in a girl's post on.
Oh yeah. I remember. Yeah, her and I are actually still going back and forth.
Awesome. That's great because I literally saw her Spoonie hashtag, so I'm like a eagle eye because I watch hashtags that are trending. So and I saw that and I thought, hey, I know the guy. So
and thank you so much for that. That's one wonderful strategy to use.
No worries. Right, I'm going to go and brag about the Mindset Group.
Woohoo! All right, I will let you all go for now. Remember, I am just a message away. So if additional questions come up from our conversation today, just reach out.
Awesome. Have a
Okay.
great weekend, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Take care,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye bye.